get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down.
Well, howdy do, Kneecaps Nation. It's another Detroit Lions winner here on Kneecaps for Breakfast. Vince Progard, that's me. Happy to be joined, as always, by my longtime partner in crime, Phil Byrne. And Phil, I just want to take a moment at the top of the show here to apologize. So I had every intention of doing the show like we normally would. We record it Sunday after the Lions game's over and done with, and that goes in the can for Monday morning. But it was a unique circumstance if you're a big Detroit sports fan right about now, and that's the Tigers playing in the American League Divisional Series against the Seattle Mariners. They took a 1-game lead on Saturday night, and the all-world ace, not the World War I flying ace, but the all-world ace in Tarek Skubal was on the mound for Game 2 with a chance to go up 2-0, heading back to Detroit for a couple of games. And I thought, hey, Phil, let's take this opportunity to, if we feel like it, maybe punt on doing the pod and watching Skubal and the Tigers in Game 2. And you agreed that it was a smart idea. But in hindsight, Phil, that was not a smart idea. I felt like I was getting a colonoscopy for 3 hours. I would have much rather stayed on schedule and did the podcast like we were supposed to have, instead of subjecting myself to that crap. So, Phil, I apologize. Kneecaps Nation, I apologize. And as Tony Kornheiser always says at the end of Pardon the Interruption, try and do better next time, knuckleheads.
Well, we had a colonoscopy and a crap drop in the first 90 seconds of the show, so there you go. I will say this. I don't think the Lions game was crap at all, so thankfully we do have the Lions, even with the Tigers. They do this. They tease us. They look great 1 second. The next second, you're like, are we sure this is the same team? So who knows what's going to happen there? Let's hope that we can still be talking about the Tigers by the time we tape next week's episode.
That's for sure, but we are very fortunate, Phil, that as it pertains to the Lions, they are more often than not very likely to be putting out a product representative of an NFL product.
Absolutely. And, you know, we obviously had everything that happened in week 1 on the road at Lambeau against Green Bay. And I think whether it was rust, whether it was concern about the play calling, there was a lot of doubt that was shadowed around this team. But Vince, I have 4 fingers up in the air right now on a hand, of course, with 5 fingers.
That's 4.
Let's see if we can go ahead and defeat the Kansas City Chiefs next week and make it 5 wins in a row. We will see. For now, though, the Lions have won 4 wins in a row. Quite a nice streak put together, especially now that we no longer have any undefeated teams in the NFL.
Yeah, what a bizarre week in the NFL it was, Phil, and we'll kind of get to it a little bit near the end of the show, but it seemed like every game on the schedule over the weekend, even counting the Thursday night special, either went down to the final minute and was decided with less than a minute to go, or it was a double-digit win and that was it. There really wasn't much of anything in between. And there were some bizarre finishes to some of those games. Like when I look back at I went back and watched the mashup of the Titans and Cardinals finish. If you haven't done that, like if you're looking for something to do as you're passing the time doing Lord knows what, I'm not even going to start speculating things that take you a few minutes every morning, but just, hey, well, do yourself a favor and watch the end of that Titans and Cardinals game. I mean, that's some bizarre stuff right there.
Back when the NFL used to have those blooper videos that went out, that one play where it looked like it was a interception by the Cardinals, and it ended up getting kind of bumbled around a little bit, and they ended up in a Titans recovery in the end zone for a touchdown. You literally can't make it up.
Or the big run that your guy just drops the ball and it fumbles into the end zone for a touchback. I mean, didn't the first guy to ever do that teach that as an example to like every other NFL player in future history? Or like, I don't know. How is that still a thing?
It's the old Nate Newton, the Cowboys and Dolphins Thanksgiving Day game from the 90s. The big lineman got the ball, started running back. He He started to celebrate too early, didn't quite make it in. Dolphins stripped the ball. But hey, if you're a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, how about that team every single game this year getting decided in the last minute of the game? If they're going to win or lose, that's pretty exciting as well. But
not
Vince, listen,
sustainable. We have to keep that in mind. Not sustainable. It's
yeah,
nice. It's cool. And if you're into the whole, cardiac Bucks thing, I mean, hey, it's fun. And I'm hoping that when the Buccaneers come to town 2 weeks from now, that's something that kind of bucks that trend in the opposite direction.
yeah, absolutely. But for now, in the here and now, the Lions are doing pretty well, getting off to good starts in these games, and we had one of those again down in Southern Ohio in
Yep.
Cincinnati yesterday.
Yep, absolutely. So the theme of last week's episode is we are on to Cincinnati, and it kind of had a more of a business trip type feel. And there's no doubt that when you and I looked at this game as almost kind of a coin flip back at the start of the season when you and I did our preview, once the injury to Joe Burrow kind of reared its head and we saw that the defense really wasn't playing all that well and they looked real vulnerable at different levels of their offense and defense, it sort of began to set in that, hey, this one might be a little easier than what we think. The Lions came out as almost double-digit favorites on the road, and you just don't see teams going out there laying double digits on the road in the NFL. That just doesn't happen. So it was a very business-like approach to this Bengals game, and according to the scoreboard and how the Lions played for the first 3.25-ish quarters, I would say that was representative of a team with that same mindset. I think you can definitely give, in hockey, how they do like the 3 stars of the game. I
Oh
think
yeah,
you can definitely give 3 stars to Jake Browning for giving the Lions the ball on 3 occasions in deep into Bengals territory, and the Lions were able to cash in on 2 of those. But hey, you take the breaks where you can get them in the National Football League.
one of the I can't remember who was calling the game yesterday, but
Kevin
someone.
Kugler and Daryl the Moose Johnston.
Yeah, so Daryl Johnston mentioned that it wasn't so much a takeaway as it was a giveaway by Jake Browning on a couple of those, and I think we've seen some pretty interesting sideline reactions so far this year. Of course, in our prior game against the Baltimore Ravens, we had Lamar Jackson, or excuse me, not against the Ravens, 2 weeks ago against the Ravens, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry looking absolutely stonewalled and perplexed and bamboozled on the sideline about figuring out what was going on, whether it was the fumble or the stalled out drives or this, that, and the other thing. How about Jake Browning just getting extremely angry and upset and yelling when in reality, look at who he's throwing the ball to. Okay, I know their offensive line isn't great. Is it just Jake Browning just yelling to make it look like he is concerned with what's going on? Maybe that's the case, but he did not play well.
No, no. And I'm not giving him a free pass for throwing
A
up a
temper
moon
tantrum.
ball and having
Yeah.
Amik Robertson totally bite on running the route a different way and got burned over the top. I'm not giving him a free pass for that. I'm not giving him a free pass for finding Chase on the sidelines and catching it in a area where only one man and one man only could get to that ball to make the game and the yardage discrepancy look to be less than what it actually was. I think it was an all-out dominating performance against the Bengals, and we were able to see a few little extra quirks in the landscape, like the halfback pass from David Montgomery. So he was able to record a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown in his home city of Cincinnati. He had his family there, so the Fox crew did a nice job of kind of putting the Montgomery family on display, and it was a cool moment for him to be able to come home and have a good game, and more importantly, come out of the WKRP territory with a win.
Yeah, and David Montgomery is one of these guys. I think Jahmyr Gibbs, whether it's a fantasy standpoint, whether it's all the yards and everything that he accrued last year, I think he gets more shine than David Montgomery. But when you talk about kind of being a very heart and soul, all in for this guy, make no mistake about it. What you get with David Montgomery is what you get. This guy he was an Eagle Scout. I think there's I only did Boy Scouts for a year or anything like that, but you're getting in most instances people of really really high character, especially when they go through it all the way into Eagle Scouts and things like that. So that's the type of person that David Montgomery is. So to have that moment with his sister, who was paralyzed, I think going back from a couple of years, she, had the invitation put out by the Bengals to come join and watch him in person. What an awesome situation there, and getting those 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment to see as a fan, and with the Eagles losing the way they did to the Broncos, with the Bills losing on Monday Night Football to the Patriots, the Lions are now all of a sudden tied for the NFL's best records. So that's pretty exciting as a Lions fan to be able to see that. At the end of 3 quarters, the Lions had a 28-3 lead over the Bengals. The
Yeah.
Bengals did rattle off 21 points in the fourth quarter. Honestly, the only time that I really started to not even so much squirm, but perk up just a little bit was when they did the onside kick after the second touchdown. And there was a question for about 15 whole seconds who in God's name had the ball. And at that point, I was kind of like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe we should take down that 4 in the win column for another few more minutes. And then once the Lions came out of the bottom of that pile with the football, that kind of made the slight amount of worry dissipate into no big problem at all. But it wasn't without things to be a
No.
little bit concerned about. So first and foremost, I know this is kind of broken record when you based on how things went last year. The injury bug is slowly starting to become a thing once again. And we're kind of in that same point in the season as we were last year. After the week 5 game is when the Aiden Hutchinson injury took place.
Yeah.
And we're kind of in that same area where now guys are starting to drop like flies. This time, instead of it being up on the D line, it's in the back end. So now it's the corners that are really, really starting to disappear one by one. We know that DJ Reed is on injured reserve. He's going to be gone for at least the next 3 games. We knew that Rakestraw wasn't going to be playing at all this year. We know that Khalil Dorsey, even though he's more of a special teams kind of guy than he is a cover corner kind of guy, we knew that he's been battling some injuries. And we knew that Terrion Arnold had a shoulder issue that he sustained in the Browns game. It really, after some time and practice and doing a little bit of rehab this past week, really didn't seem to be all that bad. He was good to go for the Bengals game. Turns out he aggravated that injury, and now, according to what Campbell said on Monday, it looks like that's a significantly aggravated injury. He's going to be out for a while, would not even rule out the possibility of it being a season-ending injury for Terrion Arnold. So,
Yeah.
blink and things change in a big way, Phil. The Lions are really, really, again, not to go to the same excrement reference once again, but they're really up that type of a creek here without an oar, and we're only 5 games in the season. So, Phil, what is the plan moving forward aside from next man up? Because even though I think that's nice in theory, next man up is really just a bunch of coach speak and rah-rah stuff. What is the plan moving forward into the meat and potatoes of this schedule?
Well, how about this too? Right now, Lions were to make no moves. Their starting corners would be Amik Robertson, all what, 5'9" and a
5 foot
half.
soaking wet.
And on the other side, you have a 6'3" corner in Trey Flowers, who they just brought in.
Not the D lineman from the Quinn Trisha era, mind you.
No, but they just brought him in about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So this is not great. This is not good. Khalif Raymond also on the offense suffered an injury. We did not have Taylor Decker either. Giovanni Manu, of course, stepped in. He had a couple of glimpses where you could see some promise, but he also got burned several times, exposing Jared Goff to a really big hit on the sack. This team has injury problems once again, and I don't know how we continue to find ourselves getting in this thing. Um, this was a road game, so for those people who believe that a lot of the injuries were sustained at home at Ford Field on that turf, no excuses here. This happened in Cincinnati with all these injuries with Terry and Arnold. Though I guess you could say the Cleveland Browns injury for Terry and Arnold that was at Ford Field got aggravated in Cincinnati. They're going to have to make a move. And I'm sorry, but a simple waiver wire I do not think is going to cut it. Yes, from a record standpoint, we are, I guess technically ahead of the Green Bay Packers with that tie. They do not have Jaden Reed healthy, but when he is back, the combination of him and rookie Matthew Golden
And I'm sure they'll
and
get
Tucker
Christian
Kraft,
Watson back at some point.
Christian Watson, who the hell is going to cover those guys? You're going to have to trade for someone. And I'm sorry, I know we beat this to death on that defensive end spot. I think getting a Lee McNeil back, hopefully in the next week or two, I don't like to say I'm going to be okay with what we've got, but at this point in time, this cornerback situation with what we've got going on is a far bigger pressing issue. You're going to have to trade for someone, So do you start looking down and seeing what teams are potentially out of the race? Do you make a call to the New York Jets and say, "Hey, listen, we know you're not going to give up Sauce Gardner, but you're winless. You're the only winless team in the NFL. Is there some other guy that we can get for some sort of pick?" You're going to have to bring someone in. I just do not like how we're in this situation once again when we will be facing several teams that have some top flight receivers going down the stretch. And yes, Aiden's look fantastic. Yes, we're getting a Lee McNeil back. But if this is already where the defensive injuries are headed, I am absolutely concerned with what's going on.
Now, to be fair, and it's almost like the chicken or the egg thing, because I've been hearing this a lot, and I'm not sure if there's anything really to it, but because of the way the Ravens season has started, I'm hearing a lot of, oh, well, all of a sudden, whatever we saw in Baltimore really doesn't matter because Baltimore sucks, and Cincinnati sucks, and Cleveland sucks, and the Bears suck, and the only team of any type of real value they played was the Packers, and they got mollywopped. But at the same time, it seems like the defense has held their own for the most part. And I think a lot of it is because of how that front four has played. I think the unit, the way it's assembled, has overachieved. I think having a healthy linebacking core has helped. So we've been able to get by with the
Yep.
holes on the back end. And because the roles were more reversed a season ago, we were so banged up in the front seven. We were more healthy on the back end, but it didn't matter because those guys were constantly under attack at all times. They were either A, forced to stay in coverage for way longer than they needed to be, or they were called in to help out with blitzing. You're not seeing as much of that this year because of the health and performance of that front seven. So I feel like they've been able to get away with it up until now. The Arnold thing, and I'm going to get to Terrion a little bit deeper here in a second, but I feel like at least having him around has been enough of a stabilizing force to where, aside from that one big play where they got burned over the top, and that was just a stupid misread by Robertson that I'm sure if he had to do it all over again, he won't make the same mistake. You're not seeing the Lions get burned with big plays after the Green Bay game. But I'm worried that this is going to be a bridge too far, having a second-year pro in Terrion Arnold being gone for the foreseeable future. And here's who we have coming up. You now all of a sudden have a healthy receiving core in Kansas City. Let's not forget they started off with suspensions and injuries to their receiving core. Are we going to have all of their receivers back, or is what's his name still on a suspension for one more week?
I want
Worthy.
to still say that he is still out for a little while. I think he's
Okay.
got another 2
But they're
weeks.
getting healthier with
Right.
Rice being back and with
Thinking about
Hollywood Brown. That's who I'm thinking of. They got him in the mix. Kelsey's at least a guy who you never know when he's going to step up if he's feeling in a good mood for action or something like that.
And he
It's
should be. Taylor wrote a song about. Okay, all
couldn't
right,
tell
we'll
you.
just leave it
Couldn't
there.
tell you. That's not my
No.
thing. Anyway, moving on. So that's who you got coming up for the Chiefs. Following week, you got Mike Evans and Baker and the weapons that they have. The kid from Ohio State, Abuka, who's having a hell of a rookie season. They're coming to
Rookie of the
town the
year front
following
runner.
week.
Yeah.
After that, you got Justin Jefferson after the bye week, along with Addison, who's back off of his suspension. You got Scary Terry the following week, and then the Eagles. So I think we're kind of at a point where we're moving out of the quote unquote soft portion of this schedule and really starting to move into some difficult things. So I think it would be in the Lions' best interest to figure something out instead of getting a guy off the couch that hasn't played a down of football in the better part of 5 years. Because I think we're really going to be in for a rude awakening if we think that we're going to be able to just patchwork this thing up and survive with undersized or inexperienced corners as we're starting to get into some real big time players on the other side.
Well, and the thing is, a lot of these teams, the prime years that you have, there is a little bit of a mortality cap that you have to them. Think about what the Lions have, where we hit so many draft picks so early on in consecutive seasons. And I unfortunately just think at some point this salary cap issue and not being able to re-sign guys or getting deals done, and Brad's done a really nice job of trying to get some of these guys in house and keeping them long term. There still is the idea that you're not going to be able to keep everyone. So while you have this good start and you can hopefully still build upon it, the offense has not lost a beat. They are putting up numbers, for these last 2 years, basically at a record clip. You're going to have to get something going. I'm not saying it's going to necessarily take a first round pick. I don't even know what kind of cornerbacks are going to be out there, but it's about time that we brought in some additional talent back there for help.
So I think the injury has kind of made it less of an issue, but the big thing that stood out to me in why the game wasn't even more lopsided than what it was is the penalties. So 8 penalties for 63 yards, which that might not seem like a totally egregious number, but when you look at 5 automatic first downs to the Bengals because of penalties committed by the Lions, and the majority of those were either on third down after they had gotten the stop and forced a punt, or in one situation on fourth down where they got off the field completely and a late flag comes in. And the majority of those were to Terrion Arnold. So are you almost looking at a possible addition by subtraction situation here, depending on what the Lions do and who they bring in to rebuild up temporarily that cornerback room?
I don't think it's addition by subtraction. I know he has his plays that really question what he's doing out there. How come he hasn't improved yet? There's still a physicality to his game that if you get that ref crew that isn't going to call these calls quite often as some of the other ones, that he can still be an asset back there. So he's still better than a good portion of the corners in this league, in my opinion. I just don't know why some of this stuff hasn't sunk in. We'll see with where his development comes in once he returns, if this is going to be that lengthy of an injury. But you're going to have to find someone that's, if not on his level, someone that's going to be better. And that's the problem. Maybe we're almost too early into the season for some of these teams to just give up for a second round pick.
Right.
We'll have to see. But I think a second round pick is a fair swap in terms of what we need to go get for someone.
Yeah. But wrapping up the whole discussion on Terrion Arnold, I think if you look deep into it from like a metric standpoint, you go back and like watch every one of like his particular plays where he's in on coverage. I'm sure if you really break it down metrically and all that, he actually is pretty good at what he does from a coverage spot. He doesn't get burned on a
Yeah.
whole lot of routes very often. The only problem is that he because he can get so handsy at times and draws the flag so much, even though he's doing so great, let's call it 90% of the time, that other 10% of the time is really, really hurting his team. So I am really anxious to kind of see if something is going to click for him at some point, because in my mind, he's starting to trend a little bit closer to Okuda territory than what I'd really like. And that's unfortunate because I think he has the potential to be a good corner in this league. I just don't know if the ship has sailed on him being a number one corner or not. But either way, it doesn't really matter because he's going to be out for the foreseeable future. Again, it wasn't even ruled out officially that it's, couldn't be a season ender. So time will tell. Another thing I want to draw your attention to, Phil, because again, I think Goff did just fine, didn't make any mistakes. I'm not going to put the fumble on him because his guys around him that should have been blocking his backside kind of screwed the pooch there. So I'm not going to put that on him. Didn't throw any interceptions. Had a pretty good completion day. You got Gibbs involved. You got Montgomery involved, like we said. St. Brown, of course, is a stick mover. Laporta, I thought, had a really nice day. Tesla had a two-handed touchdown for a change. So, and it wasn't in garbage time in a game that was already decided. So that's all good stuff. What I want your feedback on a little bit, Phil, is the guy I saw on the back of the milk carton when I was eating my kneecaps this morning. Jameson Williams.
Hmm.
Where in the blue heck has he disappeared to? Here's JMO's season stats through 5 games. 11 catches for 223 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. He was targeted once in the game against the Bengals, just a real short play, and that was it for 9 yards. The game before that, he was targeted 8 times. He did have a
Yeah.
case of the drops against the Browns, only 2 catches the whole day. In the Ravens game, he had 2, in my mind, big catches, for both of which were over 20 yards in the Ravens game, which really, in my mind, kind of set the tone for, hey, the Lions are starting to go on the road and move the sticks, and they get the ball first. Maybe they're going to have a little bit of good luck on offense after all, but that was all we saw from him. What do you think's going on with JMO, Phil? Is it simply just a matter of there being too many mouths to feed on offense and he's just not getting his, or are you thinking there may be something a little bit more serious at play here?
Certainly the drops don't help. So he'll be out there, he'll be the number 2 receiver, and if he doesn't have, or Jared just doesn't have the confidence that he's going to go catch the ball, yeah, that's going to limit the opportunities there. Laporta has had more opportunities here the last couple of weeks. St. Brown, we know he's going to get his. Brock Wright had a number of catches in this past game. So I think the issue that we have with JMO is we know what he can do over the top. Is he going to catch that ball over the top, though? Why aren't there more design plays where he's doing something out of the backfield or he's running a crossing pattern and using that speed, getting out in space? Some of this I don't think is limited to route running. I think it is a confidence issue. And we heard, I think going into last season, that Amon Ra had really taken him under his wing. They had been doing the jugs machine after practice. I don't know if he's gotten into bad habits. I don't know what's going on. We're not there. We're not in Allen Park. We don't know what's going on. But he's one of these guys. He does not need to catch 5 passes a game, but he has to be involved. And when he's not involved and he has very limited outlook, and we just paid him the money that he got, it is a cause for concern.
And it
And you
seems
do
like,
have to wonder.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's exactly it. He doesn't have to touch the ball a large number of times, but when he does touch the ball, it has to mean something. There has to be some type of positive impact. We're not seeing any of that.
The one thing I will say in his defense is he is a tenacious downfield blocker. That is something that I think was very, very overlooked when we got him. And if game script is calling more for St. Brown, Laporta, and Brock Wright, and who knows, maybe even Isaac Tesla with what he's comfortable with running, I hate to say it, but it seems like JMO is going to be used as like a downfield blocker. That's not what you pay that money to.
No.
So again, I think he at least got to look his way 3 or 4 times a game, keep a defense honest. Try something over the top with him though. Like that should open up some things in the run game. And I was a little surprised we didn't do it too, because it seemed like Cincinnati did a fairly decent job of keeping both Gibbs and Montgomery's runs kind of up the middle, fairly limited.
So Lions get a big win on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals, 37-24. It's the fourth game in a row that they have scored 30 or more points, 34 points or more to be exact. So they do have the NFL's highest scoring output over the course of the 5-game start to the season. So they are humming on all cylinders. They do have a tough game ahead at Kansas City. It looks like the Chiefs are starting to get some things figured out. It looks like they are going to face Chris Jones and a fairly healthy defense on Sunday night as well. It is going to be Sunday Night Football on NBC, so we're going to have to sit around all day waiting for it. Arrowhead is a tough place to play, even though the Lions did get the better of the Chiefs a couple of seasons ago. But again, no Chris Jones and no Travis Kelce in that one. But the Lions are going to be missing guys too, and I don't think anybody is going to be saying, "Oh, well, the Lions didn't have so and so, so and so." You don't make apologies for who you do or you don't have. But in any case, it's going to be a tough game. Kind of tough to preview that game too much because, like the Bengals, they were coming off the Monday night game when the Lions played them. The Chiefs are going to be the exact same. They are currently playing on Monday Night Football against the Jaguars. So tough to do a big deep dive preview because the Chiefs haven't played their game just yet. And we don't really have a whole lot of divisional action to talk about. The Bears and the Packers were both on their bye week for week 5. The Vikings did get a win over in London, beating the Browns 21-17. It took them, though, we talked about at the top of the show, it took them needing to come back from behind in the final minute to get the win in London. But the Vikings picked up their 3rd win of the season. Before we get to our game picks, Phil, I do want to throw it back to you just to look at the slate in general then, since there's not a whole lot of divisional stuff to talk about or preview stuff to talk about for the Chiefs game. What game from week 5, just league-wide, stuck out to you the most? What was the most impressive or most thought-provoking in your mind?
To me, it was still the Bucks and the Seahawks. I think that game had a lot of different lead changes. To me, what that signified too, I think we both talked pretty at length about the Los Angeles Rams possibly being the front runner not only in the NFC West but in potentially the NFC in general. The Niners picked up that win on Thursday Night Football over the Rams. The Seahawks, I thought they were going to get beat by the Bucks, and they had a lot of turnover on that offense. I think Mike McDonald still had plenty of turnover on that roster, getting a little bit of a different look than what Pete Carroll had on that team going. And yes, they did lose to the Bucks in kind of heartbreaking fashion, but Sam Darnold had one hell of a game. And that's not always easy to do against the Bucks defense. So even though they took the loss, I think it's going to be one of these things. Where are the Seattle Seahawks 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now? Are they still in contention? Could potentially we get 3 playoff teams or teams down the stretch coming out of the NFC West? So that's going to be interesting to me.
So that pretty much puts a bow on week 5, pending the results of the Chiefs and Jaguars Monday night game.
Yeah.
Again, Lions will be at the Kansas City Chiefs this coming Sunday night. So you and I, Phil, will be a day late dropping our next week's episode since we're not going to be up until midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock doing a podcast after a Sunday night game. So we will talk to you next Tuesday morning. But again, tough game against the Chiefs. Again, looking back preseason, this is one of those games where I'm not so sure anybody picked the Lions to march into Arrowhead and get a win. It's going to be tough, even though the Chiefs had that 0-2 start. It's going to be tough, especially with the issues in the secondary. There's going to be big plays that Mahomes and the offense make. The front end of the Chiefs' defense is probably going to cause some disruption, especially if Taylor Decker is looking at a little bit of a longer-term absence. What's your big key to this game against the Chiefs coming up, Phil?
Yeah, that's right there. They don't have the receiver weapons that some of those teams that you mentioned down the stretch do. Certainly not the Vikings, the Bucks, the Eagles, some of these teams. But that defensive line, that defensive front really worries me. So I do want to see what Taylor Decker, what his health, situation is going to look like heading into this game. I thought, again, as I kind of mentioned already, that Giovanni looked okay in spurts. There were a lot of series where it's one of those kind of like out of sight, out of mind things where I didn't even notice he was out there. But then a couple times he got beat badly. And that is a thing that you simply cannot do against that Chiefs defensive line.
All right, let's get to some picks, Phil. And we're looking at a battle of the teams that both got big wins over this past weekend. The Dallas Cowboys laying a field goal and a half as they travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Who you got in this one?
Hey, no Micah Parsons, no problem for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones, an evil scientist or just evil? I think he's just evil. Give me the Panthers.
I don't know. I think the Cowboys are proving they're able to go out there and score some points, even with the absence of CeeDee Lamb. I'll take the Cowboys to lay the 3.5. Battle of 1-4 teams. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders are laying 4.5 as they host the Titans, who inexplicably picked up their first win of the season.
Vince, is this a callback to all the crap talk that we were talking about at the beginning of the show?
That's a bunch of
Who's
crap.
gonna watch it? Who's watching this crap? That's what I want to know. I like Ashton Genty. I don't know if I like Cam Ward. Give me the Raiders.
Yeah, I'll take the Raiders too, as long as the quarterback play from Geno Smith results in 2 turnovers or less.
Yeah.
Last game up, Phil, the 49ers are catching 2.5 as they travel to the Buccaneers, a battle of the two teams that walked it off this past weekend.
Yeah, so I'm still going to go the Buccaneers with this one. I think there is still a little bit of a difference between having Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. Mac Jones has done pretty well since filling in. They've got that nice record going in San Francisco, but there's something about the Bucs that worries me as we look at where the Lions are headed and where the Bucs are headed. I think the Bucs they've got a lot of things going in their direction.
Ditto. Give me the Bucs to advance to 5-1. That's going to be a tough Monday night football game in Detroit that following week. That's the story here on this episode of Kneecaps for Breakfast. Phil and I once again had a riot breaking everything down for you. We will talk to you next Tuesday after hopefully the Lions continue their winning ways with the best record in the NFL. Stay tuned for more Kneecaps for Breakfast next week. For Phil Byrne across the way, Vince Progar saying good morning. Go Lions. Forward down the field. Over and out.